Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, recording this in lovely Escazú, Costa Rica, on Sunday, the 30th of June in the year 2024. And that means that July starts tomorrow, and we are officially halfway through 2024. I can't believe it. It is incredible to me that we have come this far so quickly and in a flash. And, we were talking about this, my friends and I, today. It was a long day. It was a long day. We went to the symphony. We went to eat afterwards. There were 9 of us. It was lovely. It was incredible. It was beautiful. We got stuck in traffic on the way home. It was, all those good things. But it was really a lovely day. And we talked about the fact that day to day, things don't feel like they move quickly. But I know when, the end of the week comes, I'm like, wow, it's Friday already. It's Friday, and it's a big deal that we've moved so quickly through this year. And so in another flash, we'll be at Christmas and New Year's. But I don't want to talk about that yet because we're not there yet. We have to deal with the astrology of right now. So Mercury enters Leo. So much is going on this week. So let's start with Mercury because he was very busy last week, and now he's going to have conversations. He's leaving Cancer only 2 weeks after joining the sign of Cancer. He is leaving, and Tuesday he will enter Leo at 8:50 a.m. Eastern Time. Not so immediately. The next day, in the wee hours of 3:27 a.m. Eastern Time, Mercury will oppose Pluto. And I mentioned this last week because Mercury is in a place where Mercury is saying, hey, I'm the first one to do the opposition with Pluto. And this is a dance that all the planets are going to do. As we saw back in January when Pluto went into Aquarius, at the same time the Sun went into Aquarius. So then all the other planets were not in Aquarius yet. They had to follow the inner planets. And they were due to pass through over Pluto through the course of those months and weeks back then. And now, there's been a square from Taurus to Pluto. And now we're at the point of opposition. And this is the first time in our history, in our lives, that inner planets are going to start opposing Pluto from Leo to Pluto in Aquarius. So you can bet that our friend Mercury and then our friend Venus and the Sun and all of these will move through the early stages of Leo and oppose Pluto. And then, we didn't have this last year, and then what's going to happen later this year is that Pluto is going to go back into Capricorn, and I've mentioned this many times, and we have to sort of clean up whatever we've done for the last 15 years and say goodbye. And then we need to see Pluto go into a dynamic with Mars. And that's going to be something because and I have to reflect back on 2020 because Pluto and Mars were in a dynamic. And so let's talk about now, and then I'll refer back to then. Now Mars is going to get slow in the sign of Cancer. Right now it's in Taurus, then it'll go into Gemini, then it will go into Cancer later in these summer months, what is considered the summer up north. And what's going to happen is Mars is going to go into Cancer, and it's going to oppose Pluto in early November, which will have gone back into Capricorn for the last time. And then what will happen is over the course of the weeks after that, Mars will go into Leo and keep moving through Leo, and Pluto's going to go into Aquarius by like the 19th, 20th of November. And then eventually what's going to happen is that when Mars retrogrades in December, it will move backwards enough to oppose Pluto from Leo to Aquarius, because Pluto will be back in Aquarius at that point in early 2025. And then one more time when Mars goes direct, it will move through the end of Cancer and but it won't be for a while. So we're looking at the opposition being in these other signs that Mars and Pluto have danced together with in 2020. Now, well, one other sign, that's Capricorn. It's the cardinal signs. And back in 2020, Mars went into Aries, its own sign, and went retrograde in Aries in September of 2020 and stayed retrograde to about mid-November. And in that time, it squared the whole COVID cluster of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, and then came back and squared them again. And then at last squared Pluto. And that was a whole series of events. With Mars in its own sign getting entangled with Pluto. And while it's not the same thing, it's another Mars retrograde getting entangled with Pluto again this year and more into next year, because there'll be 2 squares next year and 1 this year. So Mars won't move back far enough to oppose Pluto from Leo to Aquarius this year. It will only do the cardinal thing. It won't do the fixed thing. That's going to be a whole other dynamic. So this is very, very interesting. And why am I bringing this up now? Because that's going to be the last straggler to oppose Pluto before the end of the year. So there's going to be Mercury this week on Tuesday. Then we're going to see, the other inner planets do the same thing. And then eventually Mars, considered an inner planet, will also do this before the end of the year in early November. And so this is a dynamic that we are embracing in a way that we have never, except for Mars and Pluto being in Capricorn and Cancer, which has happened many times over these last 15, 16 years. That's different. But it is an opposition for sure. It'll feel like an opposition for sure. But this is what we're dealing with, are the inner planets going opposite Pluto, which they do every year. But this is the first time it's going to be in Aquarius. And then there's going to be this dynamic of Mars from Cancer to Capricorn Pluto for the last time ever in our lifetime. Okay? So this is a lot of powerful chain of events. And the oppositions to Pluto start this week, but there's information to be gained from this. So we have to pay attention, this week, as, Wednesday that's going to happen. And as we pay attention to this, we're going to get more information about Pluto and Aquarius, which is a really important thing. So let's pay attention. Let's look at the information we receive. Let's keep our heads when there's information to be dealt with, and it shouldn't be a case of a stubborn mind, okay? Because it's fixed signs. Let's try not to be stubborn. Let's try to be willing and embracing and connected and smart. And Pluto, Mercury is very smart, right? So that's one of the big things happening this week. It's going to be the first opposition from an inner planet to Pluto, while Pluto is in Aquarius. So that's one thing. The next thing is that Neptune is going retrograde at 6:40 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday. Now, I spoke about this deeply last week, and I will tell you again that we are at this point of surrender. Now, how are you all doing out there with Saturn retrograde? Now we're in between the 2 retrogrades. So I think that this is powerful and profound. I think we have to take really good care of ourselves. I think we have to really feel into what Neptune's retrograde is about for us and what Saturn's retrograde is about for us. And remember that Saturn's about commitment. And we're looking at an ethereal Saturn. We're looking at Saturn in Pisces. And it's this ethereal energy embracing this planet of structure. So, these planets, like I talked about last week, all about beliefs and reality and structure and what is the 3D world, and then there's the quantum world, the spirit world, and what's happening is that we will be given this opportunity to review where we've been over these months with Saturn retrograde, and then Neptune also retrograde till the 7th of December. And it's going to be an interesting autumn, right, guys? Well, autumn up in the northern hemisphere, spring in the southern hemisphere, continuing rainy season here. And, this is all about this incredible Piscean surrender energy and all about healing. And this is a great deal of healing time that we can use this time for healing and going back over what's happened over these months and what has been a very strong sense of, healing and that Piscean energy of faith and belief in our ability to heal something in our lives. And whatever you've been doing since March is going to come back for revisit while we have Saturn retrograde until November 15th or so. And that Saturn will stay retrograde and then Pluto goes back into Aquarius. So it's, like I said, interesting end of the year. And so when we start looking at where we've been, we have to take some inner view and really look at the inner side of all of those things and how we really start to bring in intuition, which is Piscean, faith, which is Piscean, our inner voice, Piscean. And this is 2 planets going retrograde in Pisces. And that's why they're so close together, in the date of retrograde. Like, it's not like Saturn went in April and now Neptune's going in, early July. They're going close to one another because they're close to one another, because they're close in proximity as far as, where they are placed in the zodiac. Now, Saturn moves much faster than Neptune. Saturn will move through Pisces. It started March of last year, and it'll take about 2.5 years to completely finish it. And this is our opportunity to suspend, material world beliefs in places that it is appropriate and necessary to do so, and to believe in ourselves and to connect with our innermost voice. So I advise you to do that. If you're not in the habit of doing that, it's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to try. It's a good thing to really practice. And it's a practice. Any sort of meditation, tapping into spirit, this is a practice. Just like yoga is a practice, just like exercise is a practice, just like piano is a practice. And, anything to get good at anything, you have to practice. And so even if you're practicing with a situation such as going into spirit, you want to go deeper. You want to practice. And it's not just like, okay, I'm practicing. It's like when you were a kid and you had to practice your penmanship. You just had to get better at it. You just had to keep doing it. It's deep. It's asking you to go deeper. So Saturn is very practical and involves practice. And it's saying, get up and try again, get up and try again, get up and try again, and that's the nature of Saturn until you've learned the lesson, until you've done it, until you have forgiven someone, that's Pisces, have mastered a certain level of meditation, a certain level of healing yourself, a certain level of anything in the Piscean realm. Maybe it's art. Maybe you are practicing piano or violin. I saw a lot of violinists today. There were a lot of violinists. Maybe you are taking care to stay in a practice that requires you to go someplace else. That's what Pisces wants from us, to go elsewhere, to be in a practice of going elsewhere, a little bit out of body, but also out of the mind that keeps chattering, what they call monkey brain. So to step away from that and be in this place of spirit, and a place where we can really feel like we're moving beyond the confines and the limitations of this Saturnine reality that we're in. Okay, so that's Saturn, Neptune. Neptune is at the very end of the zodiac. Mercury is going to speak sweetly, trine Neptune at 7:53 a.m. because it's the last stop that it makes in the sign of Cancer before it goes into Leo an hour later. That's Eastern time. So Mercury and Neptune are speaking. This is a great time to tap into that spirit, the voice of spirit, the intuition. A great time to do that. And then Mercury will talk to Pluto on Wednesday. and we'll get some whole new information. There is a new moon on Friday the 5th, and that is next Friday, and it is at 14 degrees of Cancer. And that's close to Venus, but not entirely close to Venus. Venus will be at 23, so they won't really conjunct, but the moon will go from the sun to Venus, which is actually a very good thing. So I expect this to be fairly good energy. And I don't see anything here that's getting in the way of that. There's a sextile, a mild sextile to Mars, which is fine, and the moon will sextile Mars on Saturday the 6th. But this is really, sun, moon, very nice in the sign of Cancer. There's no opposition to Pluto because Pluto's in Aquarius. There's no square to Uranus or anybody because they're not in those kinds of signs. But Venus will be squaring Chiron between Friday, Saturday, depending on where you live. It's 2:33 a.m. Saturday morning Eastern Time, Venus square Chiron. So that's, since the sun and the moon are going to be highlighting Venus a little bit, the moon will eventually square Chiron. The sun will not for a while, for like another 9 days or so after that. So we're really looking at, it's more Venus. And so anything that is feeling like maybe you're wounded or a little sad or a little upset about things, this is something where you want to pay attention to this and take it in, because Venus is also making a wide trine between like Saturn and Neptune, right? So they are in Pisces, Venus is in Cancer. So she's sort of straddling the center of that area where Saturn and Neptune are. She's making a trine to both of them at the same time. A little bit wide for Neptune. But so I expect that Venus, even though she's squaring Chiron, is getting enough support from the Pisces planets that they're saying to her, believe in yourself, believe in your abilities, believe in who you are, believe in your power, believe in the beauty of life, believe in love, because love is all that really matters, right? It's that we love ourselves. And if you're caught up in something on at the beginning of next weekend that feels a little less than wonderful for you, and it feels like, maybe the same old hurts are coming up, it's just another layer of what you're used to healing. And Chiron, remember, he was always a healer, even though he couldn't heal himself. Venus in Cancer can be really a good balm for that. And with the support of the planets in Pisces, and also from, a bit of a support from Mars, who's in Taurus, I expect, and Uranus. So the planets in Taurus, the planets in Pisces, I expect Venus to be okay. I don't think it's going to be this detrimental, oh my goodness, I didn't realize this, wow, that was a cold slap in the face, Venus square Chiron. Okay, there's enough support for Venus that we will overcome. Okay, we shall overcome. And then, this is the new moon. So we had the full moon a couple weeks ago, or a week and a half ago at this point, because it's Sunday and the new moon will be Friday. And that's the new moon. But there's another full moon in Capricorn. So I don't know if this constitutes a blue moon, because I think the blue moon is when there's 2 full moons in a month. And while these constitute a month, it's not a month in like July 1st to July 31st. It's a month in that it's the beginning of Capricorn and Cancer and Capricorn, and the end of Capricorn and Cancer. So the full moon was the sun in Cancer, the moon in Capricorn, and that was right after the solstice. So it was a pretty big deal, a lot of energy. But this is going to be something else, and this doesn't occur till the 21st, and that's right before the sun, as it's like doing its thing and it's getting ready to leave Cancer, it will go into Leo the next day, the 22nd, in the middle of the night. And so it's at this very end of Capricorn. And while I have said the sun will oppose Pluto, and it will in fact oppose Pluto in the wee hours of the 23rd, Tuesday, and we're getting ahead of ourselves. I do want you to be aware of these lunations. That full moon at 29 Capricorn, that's going to ring major chimes, okay? Ring major chimes around Pluto, okay? As if you're like, Deb, more chimes around Pluto, more major chimes around Pluto? How can this be? How can there be more major chimes around Pluto? So, yeah, so many in such a short time. But I want you to be aware of this and prepare yourself for it, because that full moon is, full moons are always jazzed anyway because it's a full moon. At least it's not an eclipse. And so we're really not as jazzed as we would be through an eclipse, but we have to stay aware. We have to stay aware. So this new moon that's coming Friday is a piece of the story. So we had one part of the story with the full moon and the solstice, and then we have a second part of the story, which is happening on Friday the 5th with that new moon, and then we are going to have the third part of the story, which is the other full moon in Cancer and Capricorn. So we've got the sun in Cancer and the moon in Capricorn, and that moon is going to go blunk right over Pluto as it gets close to the Capricorn Aquarius border. And so that day, jazzed from the full moon, the moon being full, it will then reach Pluto. So it's going to, go through this whole cycle of, yes, I'm opposing the sun once more, and we're saying goodbye. We're saying goodbye. This is the last full moon in Capricorn that's going to, full moon in Capricorn. This is it. We don't have a full moon in Capricorn except when the sun is in Cancer. So that full moon in Capricorn, once we have this second one, we only usually have one a year. We're having two. And this is going to go then into, the next cycle. We won't see another full moon in Capricorn until next year, and Pluto will be finished with Capricorn. But while Pluto is still hanging around, promising to go back, and then we've got the moon conjunct Pluto the same day as the full moon. Well, hey, yeah, this is going to be, the moon is already jazzed, and it's going to fly over that end of Capricorn and fly into Aquarius and sit with Pluto. So I want you to pay attention to the story. The story started back at the solstice, back here, the 20th, the 21st. Let's look at that story and then go to, what we've got coming this Friday and what could potentially be happening for us and what could potentially be signaling, a completion of this whole conversation with Pluto and Capricorn that we've been having for 16 years, and the drama and the transformation. And remember, we've been through a lot with Pluto and Capricorn, So, and you're probably tired of hearing me say Pluto and Capricorn, but guess what? We still have a piece of the action to go through this year. And it's anybody's guess where this is going to land, because I can tell you that there's probably going to be one last, brouhaha, kerfuffle before Pluto leaves. And I don't know if it'll happen when it goes direct in Capricorn or when gets back into Capricorn. There's two different time periods. There's early September, and then when it goes back into Capricorn, and then there's when it goes direct in October, and then there's when it leaves November 19th. So you really need to tie up the loose ends. You really need to look at where you're owning your power, where you might not be owning your power, where you need to let go of whatever was going on in Pluto and Capricorn, and then go to Pluto and Aquarius and feel empowered in a different way. Okay, so Pluto's still got a ways to go. It's still got another couple months before it goes back into that Capricorn. But I can guarantee there's going to be maybe it's the financial markets, though I'm not a financial astrologer, maybe, the stories that we have been living these last 15, 16 years. Please look at them. Please look at where your life has made a transformation, made a huge difference in what Pluto and Capricorn has done for you. And understand what is important for you in this moment. Okay. This is, and I'm going to say it, I always say this, but if you need help, reach out. I've got all the information about this, and you have your astrological chart, or at least the information for that, and I can help you get through this, because nobody is going to get through this going, oh yeah, that was a breeze. Oh yeah. There's going to be some, wow, I had a big realization, or wow, I had some bizarre event, or wow, yeah, I ended something dramatically and I didn't expect that to happen, etc. So I don't think that this is going to be something mild and breezy and going to just pass by us. We've got the information, let's use it. So if you want to talk with me, you can have an astrology session with me about where Pluto and Capricorn and Pluto and Aquarius are going in your chart, what has been the last 15, 16 years, and where are we going now. And you can sign up for an astrology session with me at my website, thegoldenastrologer.com, click book online. And that will get you a space that we can talk and move through this together, because we're all in this together, right? We're all in this together. Togetherness is an Aquarius thing. So we want to stay in touch with that. Okay. And, in the meantime, this week, it's like the bigger stuff is happening earlier in the week. And then we've got this new moon. So it's kind of scattered. It's scattered. Like, I think it's going to calm down a little bit Thursday. And then we have this new moon Friday. I think it's a pretty good new moon. But we also have Venus squaring Chiron. So be mindful, be aware. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes, you get better at this stuff. I didn't just, tune into astrology and become an expert. I read and read and read and read books. I read books and books and books. I drew up charts. I studied charts. I read my friends. I read myself. I watched, the thing about astrology is you can watch yourself move through these things. Oh, that's what it feels like to have that, square from Saturn. Oh, that's what it feels like to have the Saturn return. And the older astrologers are going to tell you that they have more experience and wisdom. Of course they do, because they've lived through a whole lot of transits and they've lived through the progressions, and we understand and in our gut felt what those things were like. So then we can assist you in getting through these transits and these progressions that you have in your life, and where the things are meaningful. So practicing astrology, and it is a practice, it's a very valuable tool and a very valuable experience. I do teach people too, if you're interested in studying. It's a very deep time. I've been through numerous Pluto shifts from one sign to the other, and there's always something a little dramatic that happens, and it could just be drama in your life. Somebody in your life causes drama and they're just a dramatic person, and that's the story there. So remember, we have Pluto leaving this year and we have Neptune shifting next year. So we're in a very deep, dramatic, powerful time. If you feel stuff happening and moving and shifting, yes, you're right. That's where we're going. So we're going into transformation. We're leaving behind the old and we're embracing the new. Thank you so much for listening. Great gratitude to each and every one of you for listening every week. And if you're new to my podcast, I practice Reiki. I practice 5D Lemurian Reiki, and I teach it as well as give sessions. Also, there is my expansion mentoring, and I welcome you to work with me for a time period of 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, and we can do great work together. And we run the gamut with a whole bunch of different techniques and tools that I have from my quantum integration coaching certification and all the other tools I've gathered over my many years. Please reach out to me, deb@debmcbride.com, or info@thegoldenastrologer.com, or I'm on Instagram, The Golden Astrologer, so that you may benefit from the tools that I have in my toolkit. I wish you a beautiful week. Happy Neptune retrograde. Happy new moon. See you on the internet.